Hi, I'm Bob Trask. Thank you for being with me. Let's take a look at a really, really interesting phenomenon. The slim chance that you and I could even physically exist. Let's look at the numbers. The numbers against us, the odds against us existing. 10 raised to the power of 2,685,000. 10 raised to the power of 2,685,000. It's a number greater than all the particles in the known universe. Those are the odds against you as a physical being even existing. And those are the odds against my body existing. Not the odds against being plentiful of life. Oh boy, life is plentiful on our planet. When there's no odds against the intelligent flow of nature, no odds against that at all. That's absolute. But how is it that it's so almost impossible for you and me to be here? And it isn't just physical beings like a stick. There's this incredible neurology going on, and DNA and genetics and and the subatomic particles that are making up our bloodstreams, and it just goes on and on and on. It's amazing. Amazing. In our brains, the most marvelous organism in all planetary systems. But how improbable that those even could exist. But stick with me, because in knowing the unlikelihood of you being a physical creature, it becomes easier to see who we are really and what we're really doing here. We've talked a lot over the years about how we're eternal, about how we've existed forever, and that we will continue to exist forever. So then let's find out what's beneath that unlikely physical reality and realize what's its purpose. If it's so unlikely that we could be here physically, then what the heck is the purpose of it? Everything's got a purpose. There must be some purpose. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, because if the odds against you physically existing are greater than the number of particles in the known universe, then you are a physical miracle, and there must be a divine purpose for that reality. Okay, so then let's allow a greater truth to emerge. These beautiful, amazing physical bodies are merely temporary frequencies, patterns of ever-changing light and waves. Their purpose is to allow us as eternal spiritual beings to incarnate, to discover new and deeper realities in beingness. And in the process, we'll begin to know who we are. Really, not bodies, not brains, not even minds, but unlimited incarnations of beauty, of incandescent beauty. So either we know we do exist on a level so great it encompasses this physical reality, or we're lost in an ego illusion of who we think we are. So do we exist on a level so great it encompasses this physical reality, that this physical reality is just a small incarnation inside of a greater self? When we look at our life, we might be looking at the place where the flashlight shines in the darkness. So we have a flashlight and they go into a dark area, a dark room, and we turn the light on and we look. And everywhere we look, we see the ray of the light. And we see our lives in the beam, and we think that's all there is. So we must allow ourselves to see who's holding the flashlight. That's the key here. Who's holding the flashlight? We're the ones deciding how our lives will go by focusing on the parts we've become familiar with. We can either move the flashlight to a different reality, or we might even be able to adjust the lens so it broadens to show more possibilities. But if we could get that we are the ego beings, the mental beings, holding the flashlight, then perhaps we could just go turn the light on the wall and flood the room with light. And that's what we're talking about here today. To flood our lives with light, our choice. But we're familiar with what we've already seen, and so that's probably what seems safe, and that's usually what we stay focused on. So can you imagine a world with 8 billion people, and the world is dark, and each person has their individual flashlight, and it shines a beam about that big, and each one of them are going around with their flashlight looking at their lives. If the sun comes up tomorrow, how astonishing that will be. Let's let the sun come up in our minds. Let's see the total of who we are. Remove our self-identities and admit that we don't know who or what we are. And then our brain minds get set free from the structure of ego, of identity, and we awaken to a new realization, not as individuals, but of expressions of isness, of consciousness, expressions of all that exists, expressions. So, yeah, when the light comes on, we see, we discover, but then that discovery comes into us as us, and it becomes an expression of us as us. We come into that realization, all sorts of miracles begin to happen. We change, and the world around us suddenly changes too. And we let go our ego-bound identities, and then we're in a whole new life. We're in joy, and we're in wonder. And we're constantly delighted by the flowing, ever-changing nature of reality, the reality of nature. Hermann Hesse, novelist and Nobel Prize winner, said, "There's no greater reality except the one contained within us." That's why so many people live such an unreal life. They take the images outside of them for reality and never allow the world within to assert itself. What he's saying is that we could just become who we are. Go in right now as I'm speaking. Go into your body. Feel your body. Just feel your body. Get out of your mind. Get out of your ego mind and just be in this incarnation that's your body, this magnificent incarnation. Just be in that for a moment without thinking, feeling that. Then you begin to live out loud. You begin to experience this life truly and then express that experience as you. Let me say again that we, in complete wonderment, begin experiencing a brand new life and then expressing that in wonderment as us. Van Gogh was an excellent example of this process. Van Gogh experienced not as self-contained ego man called Vincent, but as an experience of a life. That's right, Vincent van Gogh and Michelangelo and Rodin and Monet and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff were expressing themselves. They weren't expressing art. They weren't expressing music. They were expressing them, their beautiful, powerful, incandescent, eternal, glorious selves. Not as ego-bound minds, but as eternal life itself. Every great artist, every great composer, every great author was able to get out of the way and let themselves become expressions of life. And in very many ways, Steve Jobs, creator of Apple products, was also that artistic genius. So obviously, if we don't exist as we thought we did, as temporary self-oriented robots, then neither can we die as we thought we could. If we're eternal, spiritual beings, we're living in these bodies that are transforming themselves, incidentally, transforming themselves minute by minute because of the light shining through them. It's changing light. So we are these eternal beings living in these temporary bodies as pure consciousness, not physical. And even our bodies aren't physical. Every scientist knows your body's not made of stuff, but of invisible waves of consciousness. And everything we see is also made of consciousness. That distant mountain over there, it's not made of trees and dirt and rocks. It's made of frequencies, frequencies of consciousness. Consciousness is all there is. Author Richard Bach, you know who he is. He wrote Illusions of a Messiah and Jonathan Livingston Seagull. He said, I think we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten we are one with the source of all life. Absolutely indestructible, perfect, joyful. The source of our joy is when we remember that. Thank you, Richard. Let me just repeat you again. I think we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten that we are one with that source of all life. Absolutely indestructible, perfect, joyful. The source of our joy is when we remember that. So we're not our brains. We're not our bodies. We're not even our minds, because our minds are controlled by our body and keep our chemicals in our brains. Most of us think that if we let go of our memories, we let go of our opinions and our beliefs, we'd cease to exist. We'd lose something really valuable. Oh my God, if I let go of my religion, oh, if I let go of my Republican Party, oh, if I let go of my last name in the family I belong to, then I would cease to exist, or something terrible would happen. No, something beautiful would happen. We would expand and continue to expand and become one with the trees and the music and the light. We'd no longer be harboring self-doubts or old regrets. We'd be free in this paradise. And then can I actually create new realities? The answer is yes, yes, yes. You and I are already creating realities every moment of every day. But here's the problem. 95% of those realities we're creating are replicas of the realities of yesterday and last week. That's because they're not expressions of us as pure consciousness. They're expressions of our self-contained egos, just repeating itself over and over and over again. But when we create from our hearts, from love, from consciousness, our abilities are practically unlimited. We're limited only by our imaginations, our blessed, wonderful imaginations. And if the realities we are experiencing aren't the realities we want, then let's change them. Let's just change them. Because we cannot rely on the old to create the new. Let's get something new. We've got bits and pieces of junk in our self-identities things that tell us we're not worthy or aren't capable or aren't good enough or simply aren't enough. We've all got that stuff. We've all got those bits and pieces of memories of what some uncle or aunt or mom or dad or teacher or friend or someone said to us that stuck with us and told us who we are. That's nonsense. But those little bits and pieces, they're like having junk in your gas tank or your car. Your car can't run right. Julia Hill. I love this woman. She's 52 years old now. When she was a teenager, let me tell you what she did. She loves nature and she knows who she is. When she was a teenager, she fell in love with a 1,000-year-old, 200-foot redwood tree named Luna. I don't know if she named it. Maybe she named it. That was back in 1997. When Luna was slated to be cut down by a lumber company, Julia resisted. She resisted, but they didn't pay any attention. They came with their chainsaws. They're going to cut this baby down. Julia climbed up into the crown of that tree, and she stayed there and said, I'm not coming down. And they couldn't cut the tree down because they didn't want to kill the lady, so they held off. They said, oh, she'll come down. She didn't come down. She stayed up there from 1997 to 1999. 738 days she stayed in the crown of that tree. And eventually the lumber company just acquiesced, and today Luna is still standing there, 200 plus feet tall now. I want to go see that tree. Julia Hill speaks to us today saying, and I want you to just imagine her in the crown of that tree, up 200 feet up above everything, looking out over the world, sitting right up in the top of that tree. And I want you to be there with her as I quote her. Let's just be up there with her. She said, true transformation occurs only when we can look at ourselves squarely and face our attachments and inner demons. Free from the buzz of commercial distraction and false realities, false social realities. We have to retreat into our own cocoons and come face to face with who we are. We have to turn toward our inner darkness. For only by abandoning its attachments and facing the darkness does the caterpillar body begin to spread out and light its beautiful wings and begin to form itself as a butterfly. So then you and I take careful inventory of the bits and pieces that are the guidances of our minds, those bits and pieces that make up our identities. And when those bits and pieces told us we were limited, we often felt powerless. So then let's not use that old tool, those old ideas, those old processes that created our dilemmas. Let's move beyond that habitual thinking. Let's open ourselves to truths that we have yet to discover, truths that have greater power, the vast truths that lay beyond what we think we know, that lay beyond what we think we know, because we don't know. We are discovering, we are learning, we are growing, but we don't know. Stop thinking we know. We don't know. We're learning, we're growing. Reality is opening before us. It hasn't opened, it's opening. So our physical bodies are not just solid somethings, they're waves and particles of the quantum universe. And we do indeed exist, but not as physical beings. And our purpose for being here as eternal spiritual beings is to experience and express truth, which is our nature. We're experiencing and expressing ourselves with a capital S. When you grew up, did you always know you were special? Because you are special. You are precious. Did anyone ever tell you that you were precious, that you were special, that you were the only one of you that would ever exist? Did anyone ever encourage you to find and shine your own light of self and to trust yourself as a special gift to this reality? Did anyone ever tell you that? Because that's the kind of upbringing that would have enabled you and me to flow creatively and to live in wonderment and even in ecstasy, which is the truth. That's how life is supposed to be. And I see parents wanting to bring their kids into this reality. And they take classes and they read books and they try to figure out how to teach their kids to be all they can be. But there's only one way, and that's by example. If they love their kids enough to change their own lives and realities, then their kids will see that reality. And they will also know that they have access to it. This is what we can do for those around us, for our families, for those other people that we say, gosh, they're sort of dragging their knuckles and they're having a hard time getting it together. Be ourselves completely free and powerful spiritual beings, and they will see that, and it gives them a guidance. Let's live in wonderment. Let's live in grace. Let's love those people with all of our hearts. And if there's bits and pieces of information in your subconscious mind that are sabotaging you, you can clean them out. You can do so by attending classes to higher consciousness. I teach those classes. Come and take those classes with me. You'll be welcome. I suggest also that maybe we can employ some powerful affirmations and repeat those with conviction and many times every day. 3 affirmations I've found to be really valuable are, number 1, I am free today and free forever. I am free today and free forever. Second one is, I am a good and worthy person and I deserve joy. The third one is, I am being loved and appreciated. So if I say those affirmations, or any one of those affirmations, if I say, I'm free today and free forever, if I say that and mean it, and say it over and over again, and say it with meaning, then do I become free? Yes, because those old programs dissolve and get replaced by a new program that says, I'm free today and free forever. And if I say I'm a good and worthy person, then all of that unworthiness that my religions taught me, that my parents taught me, that society taught me, all of that unworthiness goes away. And then I deserve joy. And if I say I'm being loved and appreciated, now I'm going through life maybe, and I'm not being loved, and I'm not being appreciated, and I'm being treated poorly, and I'm just not being appreciated. But you know what? If I'm saying this affirmation every day, constantly, I begin to radiate out the beingness of someone who is lovable and appreciable. I begin to relate that out. I am lovable and appreciable. So then let's take this away from today's talk. We don't exist in the way we've been taught. We don't. That's a vehicle. We're riding around in this vehicle, this magnificent vehicle that's being created. It wasn't created. It's being created. It's just light forms. And our self-identities, then our ego identities, our mental identities, they can either be traps or they can be precious paths. And we get to choose. We get to choose. Let's know that things that appear naturally, grasses, animals, birds, They're all flowing with nature. And immersing yourself in them, in nature, will continually remind you of who you truly are. Finally, today, I want to say that Mother Teresa, wonderful Mother Teresa, said there's a light in this world, a healing light more powerful than any darkness we may encounter. We sometimes lose sight of this force when there's suffering, too much pain. Then suddenly, the Spirit will emerge through the lives of ordinary people who hear a call and answer that call in extraordinary ways. Thank you for being with me.